Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
My name is Sansita Balakalu, and thank you for sitting down and talking to me. So to begin, what is the 3-35, or can you kind of explain what that means?
Yeah. So the whole idea of 335 was, as I understand it, I wasn't there at the very beginning of it, but 335 stands for 3% of penetration of ISKCON into the North American culture by the year 2035. That's the basic concept of 335. It was started about 2023 when the North American Council had made an idea that they wanted to try to please Prabhupada and expand Krishna consciousness in certain ways. So to do that, they thought they would make an initiative. This is the North American GBC. It's also called the NaRGB, or Regional Governing Body. We have our main GBC, which is the authority for the entirety of ISKCON. But certain continents and local areas have their own regional GBCs, or called RGBs. And so North America in the year 2023 decided to make this initiative that they called 335, which is 3% penetration of North America by the year 2035. And it was unveiled to the general public, actually not really to the general public, but to the devotees, the temple presidents of North America at New Vrindavan, in a meeting that they had as all the temple presidents of North America came together in New Vrindavan in October of 2024. So in October of 2024, all the North American temple presidents came together, and the RGB began to explain about this concept of 335. And so here is a little bit more detail about it. It's we hope for 3% penetration of North America by 2035. Now, what do we mean by 3% penetration? So far, I mean, all this is a work in progress. Any of this could change, I think. But basically, the idea is that we measure this by people chanting either one round a day or attending 20 programs per year. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're initiated or they're following all regular principles or anything like that, but at least that we hope to reach 3% penetration by that metric. Now, later on, I'll mention that we haven't established how to even make that metric possible, but that's the overall concept, that one round a day or attending 20 programs per year. Of course, we hope people will do more than that, but that's kind of the cutoff line, or the break-off line. So the 335 initiative was broken into several projects or subcategories, and those different, sometimes they're called petals, sometimes they're just called sub-projects. And those were things like a book distribution project, an educational project, a temple increase project, which was the main part of 335, was that we were hoping to increase the amount or number of temples or preaching centers by the year 2035. So in Canada, especially around the Toronto area, which is quite a populous area, actually, there have been quite a number of temples that have sprung up in this, recent times. So the idea then was that these temples would, branch off, because generally speaking, in ISKCON, the idea has been to have one main temple, and when the idea is to branch out, make another temple, people feel, well, it'll drag away from our temple, we won't have as many visitors, et cetera, et cetera. But this is contrary. But I don't want to get too lost in this, because this is not our petal, or not our function. But the main thrust of the 335 is to kind of increase the amount of temples. Now, besides that, there was an idea for prasadam distribution, and then there was a whole group of ancillary projects, which included things like, help for other things. We wanted a youth program. We wanted to have some kind of program for people to be able to deal with issues that they might have. Like, for instance, sometimes devotees get trapped or caught into activities that are breaking the principles, how they can come away from it, how they can deal with issues like that. So these are sort of, I forget what they're called, like support projects, I think is what the name was. So as I said, this was all unveiled in the NaRGB in New Vrindavan in 2024. So 2023, 335 was conceived, and just the NaRGB worked on it to kind of come up with a basic structure. And then at 2024, the structure was given to all the temple presidents, and they participated in joining groups that dealt with different petals or different subclassifications. Our particular subclassification here is education, and that gave rise to something that we now call ISEE, ISEE. And we'll be talking about that in a minute. I think that's your next question.
Yes. Before I ask the next question, I just wanted to ask a little question about, you said the temple increases is what you're looking for specifically. Is there like a specific amount that you're looking for in the next 10 years or so, or just in general increase in temples?
General increase. I don't think any numbers have been really floated that are solid or based on any kind of research or any kind of practicality. But that's that's kind of a different wing than what we're doing here. So that's why I don't want to get too lost in that whole explanation, because it's a different project altogether, and I'm not part of the team on that one. So
great. So like you just mentioned, the IC concept, do you mind explaining a little bit more of that and what it is?
Sure. So the ISEE stands for Institute of Spiritual Education and Enlightenment. And the main focus of the Institute for Spiritual Education and Enlightenment was to be able to help by spreading knowledge of Krishna consciousness, practicalities of how to engage in Krishna consciousness to a wider base, and that's the so we're kind of the educational part or educational petal of 335. And some of the devotees that are on the team that volunteered are Pandit Srinivas, Prabhupada Priya Devi Dasi, Vrinda Devi Dasi, Shruti Sagara, Vimala Devi Dasi, Ramacharya, Achutya, Keshava, Balimarda, and Vishnu Priya Devi Dasi, and Hema Gauranga. So these are some of the people. And of course, myself, I'm also on the team. So these are the people who are at least on the docket as having volunteered for working with the spiritual education part, which is now called ISEE, Institute for Spiritual Education and Enlightenment. So again, the real point of the ISEE is to try to give spiritual knowledge to as many people as possible. That's the basic idea, is to make it accessible, excuse me, to people everywhere. And then there, I think with the whole 335 initiative, there are many difficulties that are there, so we have to overcome those somehow or other for us to meet any of these practical goals.
Of course. Are there any specific difficulties you see in the near future or even in the far future that we need to overcome?
Well, okay, this is at least from my point of view. I think others may have other concepts, but the ones that I see are that most of the people who are a part of this 335 initiative are temple presidents or people who are heavy into the organizational aspect of administration in ISKCON in North America. And that means that they already have a lot of issues that they have to deal with on a regular basis. They're involved in setting up programs and dealing with day-to-day temple affairs, making sure that deities are worshipped, the boga comes out on time, and that there's prasadam for everybody and all that kind of thing. So they have to steal away from that to make some time to be able to work on this side project. And so far I've seen that it's very hard to keep everybody going towards regular meetings about this because there's so many other priorities that come. And one of the things that I see that's also very important that has not been thought out or really dealt with is how we're going to create a metric for judging whether we're reaching this goal of 3% penetration. How will we gauge it? Somebody has to be a census taker, somebody has to be a data broker to find out whether we're actually making any headway. Otherwise, if there's no evaluation of how we're going with this project, then I think the whole thing will be, just more or less an intellectual project, which is what I worry about. So we don't really have any funds to work with. It's not like, we have some cash kitty that we can borrow, and that would be nice, and we could hire technical people to do things like do some data gathering, or technical people to build website, technical people to do various kinds of projects and set up websites and all that, but we don't have it. So that's why at least myself, Ramacharya, and the ones that are here in our core group and ISEE, we are trying to go for the low-hanging fruit, for the things that are the easiest to accomplish.
I see. Yeah, and that makes sense. I think that such a big project, a data analyst or some sort of metric is going to be really important to actually just kind of mark down and notice the change from now till 2035. So I think that's a very practical problem that we're going to have to overcome. So besides having these difficulties, what kind of projects does the ISEE have planned for 335?
Okay, so we'll give you a little overview of the kind of things that have been talked about. And as we're saying here, that everything is contingent on whether we have participation funds and time. And that's an important part because it's not easy to be able to make the time for these things. We have basically thought in one sense, we have an easy initiative because I think more than some of the other wings of the 335, we can do a lot with very little, without a lot of input, either of money or time or technical support. But we were thinking about, in general, this is the overall concept. We want to make blogs and web pages and websites where the philosophy of Krishna consciousness is made easily available. That's the main concept we're trying to do. And also, there will be, this will be to people who are already Krishna conscious, as well as people who are completely new to Krishna consciousness. So we're hoping to make kind of startup basic videos about how you can be a Krishna conscious person at home. You never heard anything about Krishna before. You've never read Bhagavad Gita. At the same time, we want to make courses available or platforms available for people who have been further along in spiritual life, and therefore they can learn how to get deeper into Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, and Chaitanya Charitamrita. And we hope eventually to get some kind of system where people who are becoming involved with the philosophy can then be able to get literature that is part of the philosophy as well, like Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita. They can either buy books, which is the preferable thing, or they can get access to it on some kind of digital format. That way they can read along, follow along. So that's a part of what we're doing. And here's some examples, that we were thinking about having online classes in video format. Also, eventually, we'll be doing in-person classes as well. And maybe eventually we'll have a website that is dedicated to, some kind of presentation like Udemy style or Mohawk or something like that, where people can learn in a structured way, where they can come to the website for people who work or have odd hours, and then they can progressively go through like a college curriculum, except for this is all spiritually based on our philosophy. And in doing that, they can go through it at their own pace in their own home on their computer. It's, of course, always better to have these things in person, but we live in a time where, because of workplace necessities and so many other things, it's not always easy to be able to put aside the time, especially if you're going to do a regular curriculum. Most classes, they're pretty regular, but, when could we do it that would be practical for people who are working, so on and so forth. People work at different times. So that's why I think the thrust or the biggest part of what ISEE is going to do is going to be based around the web, so that it's available 24/7 as people are able to take it up. Now, to give you an example of what kind of classes we're talking about, things like classes on Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, these could be beginning classes where basic concepts are taught, as well as more advanced classes. We could also talk about things that people will find interest in their own lives, like how to lower stress, how to live a more complete life, how to understand their own inner character and how to change it for the better, how to chant, how to do Vedic hermeneutics, for instance, how to read scripture and understand how to put it all into perspective, and basically other things like cooking, how to do book distribution, maybe Sanskrit, get people to understand the language a little bit more, the language that the original Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita are written in, and music. These things could be made available. So this is an example of the kind specifically of subjects that we would be trying to work out.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great plan. I mean, you have like the more technical, like with the Bhagavad Gita, like you mentioned, but then more realistic of like how you can apply that to your life, lower your.
Yeah.
It sounds like a very like go at your own pace. People have families, they have work, like you mentioned, sometimes at different times. You also mentioned that it can be for people who are already in Krishna consciousness or who are kind of not very familiar. Do you see how like the youth classes that a lot of ISKCON temples have? Do you see like the youth kids being involved in like the behind the scenes or anything like that? Is that part of the plan or?
Yeah. As a matter of fact, that has its own petal altogether. The youth programs are a specific category of 335, all in itself, where basically the youth are being given opportunities to do projects, create projects, help manage projects, and work with themselves, finding new ways to reach people of their own age bracket. You know, we're uh, old geriatrics here, so we have one way of looking at things, but younger people have a different way of looking at things. So that's why there's just like we're the this ISEE is part of the educational wing. There's a youth wing, which
Mhm.
I failed to mention when we were talking about in 335. That's one of the petals or one of the limbs of the whole 335 initiative is youth projects.
Cool. So, like you mentioned, then you had like a list of all the like different types of curriculum. It sounds very practical, but are there any like direct challenges you think that, we're gonna have to overcome like right away because there's so many, or like just very specific ones, or?
Yeah, well, I mentioned it already a little bit before, but we'll just go back to it a little bit because I think that's, um, I'm seeing as we're getting into this project of 335 and even our own part of it, that to get devotees to commit to meeting on a regular basis to make sure the project is moving forward is the biggest hurdle
Mm,
that there's so much already going on. And, you know, many of us are older and we have health issues and this kind of thing. So we need a system of, finding out at least, I think every wing of the 335 is going to have to come to grips with how many people practically are participating. And depending on that and what resources they can muster, it's going to spell out whether they're going to be able to shoot for the rhino or they're going to have to be satisfied with a more modest effect. So personally, I think that what we need to do is to better light one candle than curse the darkness. So if we really find that we don't have much resources and we're not making much progress, find something that is fairly easy, fairly low-hanging fruit, and can be done, and just do it. That's why we're doing this. This is we're at least trying to get our whole project off the ground by making a sort of uh, manifesto like this to what we are, what we're trying to do, why we're doing it. Of course, I mentioned the other things too that we'll need technical help, which we don't really have. We don't have any funds, but eventually, if we're going to make any large scale project, we'll have to get people to donate for uh, time for professionals and for social media platforms, and that all of this takes some money to accomplish. So those are some of the practicalities that we're going to face.
okay. I see. I had a question and it just kind of went out of my head as you were talking. Oh, okay. So you keep mentioning about like the 2035, which is in about 10 years. Are there any like upcoming timelines for projects that you want to accomplish before 2035, or like kind of like at least like a couple steps, like at least hope by the next 5 years like we get a quarter of the way or like halfway or anything kind of similar to that?
hmm Well, one of the things that I've realized is that we're pretty good in ISKCON of coming up with good plans. And of course, everything starts with plans. You can't really jump into something without plans. But oftentimes that's as far as we get. We make elaborate plans. And so, I found this image just, and that's kind of the way our timeline is, that we're hoping for things. But I'll tell you what we have done so far.
Okay.
And let me see if I can get this to switch over. This was something written up by Ramacharya, that phase one from the first year, which was, I guess, 2024 when we first heard about it, to 2025, forming teams. That actually happened.
Okay.
Missions and visions, that more or less happened. Environmental scanning, which something that the devotees, particularly Ramacharya, did here. So I don't know how the other petals of 335 came out, whether they did this or they haven't done this yet. And then we try to come up with timelines and deliverables. And so far, I don't think we have, that's not so solid. Now from 3 years from 26, 27, 28, we hope to create courses such as this, weekend and crash courses, online courses, talk shows, social media presence, audio and visual courses, video courses, etc., reaching out to centers in North America, implementation and adoption, seeing if other people in other temples can be some of this. This is all stuff that's slated for 26, 27, and 28. Really not much of this has happened, but of course it's actually scheduled to start next year. We'll see how well we can do. We've kind of held to phase one, and then phase three, which will be, from 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, and 35 will be actually to continue creating those courses, proliferating them, evaluations and corrections, finding out where we're not doing so well, how we can do better, and gathering a database of participants so that we can, move further into it. So you get a kind of idea of the timeline there. It's not set in stone by any means, and I'm hoping that it's moving apace in some of the other petals of 335, but we're trying to do something here, and we're struggling to keep the momentum going in some way or another, because I think that ISKCON is primarily an educational organization. That's why we focus on book distribution, why we focus on teaching people. We're not just interested in getting, card-carrying members that say rah, rah, we want to actually explain the philosophy to people. And when they actually understand the philosophy, then they can take part in a culture that supports a philosophy, and the philosophy supports inner development. That inner development ultimately brings one face to face with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. So that's the ultimate goal. And this is what I think will make a difference over the time. If we can genuinely somehow or other become a real educational institution, not just for our own members, which that would be good even for a start, because I think that in general, most devotees find it hard to carve out the time to go really deep into our philosophy. Of course, not everyone's going to do that, but those who have an interest in deepening their commitment will have to take the effort to really study our philosophy so they can make an effort to understand what it is and what it isn't. And when you understand what you're doing, then you can be much more capable of being firm in your conviction and getting rid of bad habits and diversions. And as well, you will understand what you are doing and what you're exactly avoiding and why, because our movement is constantly inundated with controversies over some things that are trivial and some things that are not so trivial. And if a person doesn't have a good foundation in the spiritual understanding of what Krishna consciousness actually is, they can wind up getting swept up into something that is, close but no cigar, as they used to say. It's not really dead on Krishna consciousness. It's something like Krishna consciousness.
I see. And I think that makes perfect sense because there's so many distractions in this material world right now. There's so many things thrown at us at a time. So I think a foundational base really does what help us grow into Krishna consciousness, if that is that we want to. You did mention that you weren't aware what the other petals were at with like their timeline. So moving forward, will there be an interest of like meeting again, whether that be in person or just online, to like just kind of see where everybody's at and seeing like their own pace?
Yeah, actually, we are meeting as far as ISEE goes. We're meeting on a regular basis. Well, maybe not so regular, but at least once a month or something like that, touching base, trying to see how we've come so far. And Manan Gopal, who is now one of the main organizers of the overall 335, I spoke with him this morning, and they have a kind of a check-in, I think twice or three times a year. And I think I didn't make it because of health issues to the temple president's meeting in 2025, which was in Houston, Texas. So I think that they had some little bit of a gathering and discussion about 335 there. So we are trying to move forward and keep the fire burning. And as the overall 335 is meeting, I think, at least 2 or 3 times a year. And we, as our portion of it, are meeting something like once a month or so, trying to see what we've accomplished so far.
Nice. Yeah, I think that would be pretty helpful. You've already mentioned extensively kind of what someone would benefit from like attending these programs and doing these courses and things. Is there anything else specifically that you'd like a really, really good benefit or something that kind of stands out with the ISEE program that we have planned?
Yeah. The idea of what benefits someone will get from attending classes online or attending physical classes or installing some app on their phone or computer will, if it doesn't really make sense to them, if it doesn't really feel like an important part of their lives, they won't really continue with it. Basically, I think that we will be able to teach people practical steps to manage their lives. We find that we're living in an era in our world today where people in general are very stressed out. People find many challenges in keeping an organization running well, challenges in, family structure, husband and wife living together, children, etc. People are finding challenges in workplace ethics, where people are being asked to do things they shouldn't be asked to do by their employers. And all this contributes to a burgeoning and ever increasing discomfort with the modern age. We have, on one hand, at our fingertips, we have many, many different technological advances. These advances certainly make things easier, but at the same time, they have changed our fabric of life. And as a result, people don't know why they feel out of place, why they feel alienated, why they can't cope, why things feel like they're buzzing around too rapidly. They don't know why that is, but the reason, of course, is that we're living a type of lifestyle that really has never been seen before. I don't think a lot of people ever think about the fact that since the Industrial Revolution, which I guess was around the 17th, 18th century, somewhere in thereabouts, that the Industrial Revolution changed the way humans live. You know, people used to live in, you know, most of the people in the world were involved in agriculture in one way or another, and other people were involved in a few of the other things that needed to make life possible. But that all changed with the Industrial Revolution, where it changed the way families work. It changed the way men and women relate to one another. It changed the way that people make money. It made it possible for people to create products and services that are totally unessential and actually make a good living at it. So this has contributed to every year something new comes out that jars the fabric of society. We just went through the COVID-19 crisis. Now there's other things happening that cause us to deal with things that are problems in our lives. And new things, new ways of being, new questions that were never questions before are making people feel ill at ease. But the Vedic scriptures actually do have a lot of answers and a lot of foundational points that if we take seriously, we can gradually learn how to manage our way through the fake news, through the constant barrage of people acting out the most kind of low sorts of communications with one another on the internet and all these other kinds of things. And the fact that people are, they work one place and they live another place, and they have to move, and jobs can come and go in basically 1 or 2 years. A person has to reinvent themselves 4 or 5 times during their lifetime. All these things were never done before. So people are looking for answers, and we have them, but we just have to package them in a way that people will sit still long enough to gather them and make them available in a way that they can take a little bit by little bit and begin to process them in a way that they can do it at a rate that isn't too steep for them to get to actually make progress. So, of course, we can teach, how to manage life, how to develop character, how to lower your stress. And the whole process of Krishna consciousness helps us to make new friends, friends that are also trying for spiritual life, because spiritual life is not something that will happen accidentally. It's not something that we will be able to have the wrong kind of association and have any momentum to maintain that spiritual life. We have to have the right kind of association. And if you have people who you see that are looking for a higher thing in life rather than just going with the norm, or worse, trying to see what they can get away with, then you find that you are able to make more progress in your own life. And then you can see that these principles that we talk about in Krishna consciousness, they're principles that people really do live by. They're not just something you read in a book. You read, Friedrich Nietzsche, or you read, Socrates or something like that. And you think, wow, that's great, but who's following any of those things, whereas if you read Bhagavad Gita, you read Prabhupada's version of the Bhagavad Gita, you find that there's a whole movement that's reading it on a regular basis and trying to apply it in everyday life. And I really do think that once people actually understand what the Vedas have to offer philosophically, Western philosophy has nothing like it. It's not nearly as complete, and it stubbed its toe and got stuck in various bogs so many different times, whereas the Vedas actually do explain a lot of the mysterious workings of the world that we don't see, that is the basis of this world that we do see. So this is the real philosophy, the best of all philosophies. But it takes some time, and it takes some, a person has to make the effort to put aside what they may have thought in the past, to at least hypothetically agree with what the Vedas have to say, try out some of the ideas, and listen to the philosophy. And then they can see that this philosophy really is head and shoulders above everything else. So, as ISEE members, we are trying to make that available to everybody. And in this way, I think people will come more and more to see that they will benefit from it. And of course, there'll be, lesser philosophical things for people who just want to know nuts and bolts of how to do this or that or the other thing, or how to keep from, becoming depressed or whatever it is.
Yeah, and I like how it's a very like little by little, at your own pace, and so that they're not overwhelmed, and they have like these different avenues, like you just mentioned, like the nuts and bolts, or like if they really want to deep dive into what Krishna conscious is and how to just be involved in ISKCON and kind of change their life in a way.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's great. And I guess just moving forward from there and like into the future, where should we kind of look for developments?
That's a good question, folks. Just this morning, I found out that we do have a YouTube channel. It's just recently blossomed into existence, and I don't have its, URL, but Ramacharya does, so I'm sure he'll post it in any form. But let me see. I think I can at least say it if I can't. Here. If you go to YouTube and you type in Institute for Spiritual Education and ampersand Enlightenment, you will come to our YouTube channel, which this will be the very first video on that. I guess it'll be the, sort of orientation video for the whole channel, because this is what we're hoping to do, is take this as a pro forma or a manifesto, and then gradually flesh it out with various different kinds of uh, presentations that are all in the same vein of
Nice, yeah, and I think just kind of hearing all about like 335 and what ISEE is about to do and is doing right now, I mean, it's getting me excited, and I feel like introducing this to the youth in the kids' classes, they'll get excited and hopefully spread that excitement around. And everyone.
Where are you?
I'm based in St. Louis, but currently in Arkansas right now with my parents.
Oh, you're in Arkansas. Where in Arkansas?
Bentonville.
Bentonville. Oh.